the expected ingrained recreational activities of sex, raising babies, and going to the farm were not enough for this young girl. She taught herself fortitude enough to forge a very different path than the one expected of her. Ava's story starts in an era of high deprivation, even by rural Jamaican standards, where the need to find food often won over going to school. Her journey through her adolescent years was dominated by the dark shadows of incest, homelessness, violence, and sexual abuse. Ava's life took an entirely different path when the event of being held up and raped at gunpoint in front of her child finally pushed her to flee her country to save her sanity. That's what the Mango Girl is about.
Mm. It is impossible not to think and reflect because there were deep things there. There were really deep things there.
There are. And the
Which one?
irony is, I'm currently in
Yeah.
Jamaica, right? I'm in Jamaica. I'm currently in Jamaica living. And I'll talk about a little bit about mindset because healing is important. Mindset is important. There was a time when I never think I could be back here. And I'm here living now because I had to go and do work on myself. I had so many fears and I had to go and work on myself and I had to work on mindset. And this is why one of the things that I do with people, I coach on mindset because we can shift our mindset from one place to another. So sorry about that. Let me go back to what you're going to ask. I just had to say that piece.
No, no, I'm not going to let you pass that. And that is important because you see, we're talking about book, we're also talking about story. All right. The reason I'm talking about it with you is I can see that you are mature, you have grown, you have overgrown the trouble. But for the benefit of those who are listening to us, it's important that we touch a bit about that because when you talk about incest, your father abusing you, we cannot just pretend we didn't hear that. We need to sort of explain that part. What happened? What happened? Like, uh, how did a situation like that happen? It is important. What would you want us to know about it to the extent you
Sure.
want us to know?
Sure. So it's it's not the most comfortable topic, but basically, I live with my mom, and my mom. I mean, with another child, I saw it differently. At the time, my mom and I didn't have the best relationship because in my eyes, I couldn't understand like why she gave me away. So my mom gave me away to my father, and I went to live with my stepmom and my father. And my mom and I have a really great relationship now. A while ago, she just sent me some yam and some bananas. So we're really, I call her my Jenna, my G. She's my, yeah, we're really tight. But at the time, we weren't really tight because I grew up thinking that she didn't love me and she didn't care about me. But my mom has since explained to me that she was young. She was a teenager when she gave birth to me. And so when she gave me to my father at about 9, 10 years old, she felt she was doing the best thing because she had other children to care for. And so basically, I went to live with my father, who I hadn't lived with before. And in that house, my stepmother was big politically. She was in a political life. And it was in that format when my stepmother was not around that my father took advantage of me.
So sorry about that.
That's
Now,
okay.
this is a point. How is your father now? What happened to that relationship? I mean, that father to daughter relationship after that incident, that brutal, that really horrible incident.
Well, sorry. I mean, sorry to say that my father is now deceased. But we never really had that daughter. I don't know what a daughter-father relationship is like. I've never had one. I don't know what it's like, and so I can't speak to it. I can speak to feeling resentment, indifference, and really wish he was alive for me to confront him because at the time I didn't have the bravery to do so. Now I feel that had it been now when I'm in a different space, I would have been able to broach a conversation with him, but he's not around, unfortunately. And so I just have to just bury that side of me and move on.
All right. What did your mother do about it?
My mom didn't know. I didn't share that with my mom until later when she came to London when my son was born. That was 2011, was the first time I shared it with her because I grew up in the era where children are seen and not heard, and also where incest was very taboo, sexual violence was tabooed, and people would think it's your fault. And as a child, I kind of felt that who was going to believe me anyway? So I really kept that from my mom until later on in life, which I'm sure you probably have heard of many stories like that, where women and men, girls and boys, they battle that up inside, and they take a very long time to reveal that, because there's a shame to it, there's a stigma. You become mute to think it's your fault, and you trust no one. So I never told my mom until very now. When I told her, she was in London, and I chose that time specifically because she was now in London, and I know that there's nothing she could have done. Because had she been in Jamaica when I told her, I know she probably would have confronted him then. And so it was easier to tell her when she was in London. She couldn't do much, and then we could talk it through.
All right. Your thoughts. What do you mean by that? Okay, I understand maybe an adult woman who maybe dressed indecently, got the attention of some other person, whether they are good or bad. Then maybe something happened. You could at the point say, okay, maybe it's your fault because you didn't dress very well. But in the case of a daughter to a father, how are we going to um, get to the point of accusing the daughter of being at fault in that sense? I didn't get that part.
So you asked me why did I think it was my fault?
Yeah. Why would somebody think that?
A lot of people, especially young children, tend to think it's their fault. But for me in particular, I felt it was my fault because I didn't grow up with my dad. So for the first time, I lived with him, and it was like a big deal. I was so excited because I grew up being bullied about my father and being told that I'm a jacket. And I don't know what you call it in Nigeria, but in Jamaica, being a jacket means that you have no father. You are a child who has no father. And so I grew up feeling that, well, I was for somebody else as well. I grew up feeling that I was abandoned. I was not good enough to have a father, and I was teased about it. So when my father initiated wanting to get to know me when I was not living with him, I was happy and I was excited. And so because of that, I grew up in the space when, my son is 11 and he knows what sex is. He knows what having a relationship is to a point. He knows some things I didn't know that at that age. So at that age, nobody spoke to me about puberty, about sex, about anything. So my father took me, and he was, come, I want to get to know you. I'm happy. I'm excited because I didn't have a father, and I felt like there's a void. So when he was trying to get to know me as a daughter, he wasn't initially doing anything that felt wrong. So he groomed me in a way, and when it happened, you know it is wrong because of how it felt. It felt wrong to you, but there was nobody who told you that this shouldn't happen. So I started feeling like it was my fault because I tried to get to know him. It was my fault. I blamed myself until I got older and understood better. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. It does. Again, we are trying to educate the people that are listening on, because you are an adult, you have matured. In fact, you are an expert. You can give advice based on what has happened. Because just like you were a child, then there are many children out there who perhaps might have been going through situation, maybe that they're about to resort to this or already resort to this. So that is why it is important that we share our story, so that we help people also to avoid danger. It's one of the reasons for storytelling, actually. All right. At what age were you at this point?
Oh my God, I was about 10 years old.
All right.
About 10 years old.
Baby. You're still a baby. All right. Now tell me, so that we can move to the story, to move to the book. How did you manage to heal yourself? What did you do when you, of course, got mature? But it's not far away from the story of Oprah Winfrey, for example. And that story, of course, is what changed her too. Because we can't say that bad things should not happen to us. We don't know. We are not the one that program life, because when we are born, we are children. We basically don't know. We have no instrument. We cannot even know what is the difference between black and white until we grow up. Then we begin to find out how to live and how to even define who we are. And by then, a lot of things have happened. So it depends on how we are able to interpret what have happened to us, that we can rewrite our story and make something out of it. So that is what Oprah Winfrey did. And I believe that is what you do and what you are doing too. So it's not like we should be afraid or ashamed to talk about what have happened to us. It has happened to us. That is who we are today. That is what makes us who we are today. So that is why it is important that, yes, we will continue to tell our story and, of course, leverage it so that our story doesn't work against us. It works in our favor. So I really thank you and thank for your courage to share. Now, tell me, this is important. How did you manage to heal yourself? Having known what has happened, you interiorize it, you understand it, now you are an adult.
Thank you. So let me just go back. I'll answer that question 2 ways. Let me just go back to the verbiage you just spoke about. And you're correct one of the things that when I speak and I share and I train all over the world, I say this to people. I recently did a training day for the government here in Jamaica on customer service because I'm a trainer. I do so much. You know, my life experiences were shaping me for a moment like this. So, for example, selling mangoes on the train taught me how to speak, how to not be afraid, how to be bold and tenacious. And so now I'm able to go out into crowds and speak. I speak in front of audiences of 15,000, 10,000 at the time, and it's very easy and comfortable for me. But one of the things that I wanted to say to touch the verbiage you gave was the fact that our stories are not ours. Let me just pause for a second and say that again. Our stories are not for us to keep. They're not ours.